Magellan.
Magellan.
Magallanes.
Magalhães.
Magalhães.
Greetings. Welcome to this special edition of the Explorers Club Global Exploration Summit. From Lisbon, at the Pavilhão do Conhecimento Ciência Viva, we start by welcoming Ricardo Serrão Matos, Portuguese Minister of the Sea, for the summit opening remarks.
Muito boa tarde a todos. Un cumplimiento al alcalde de Sevilla también, don Juan Espadas, que es la presidente de la red de ciudades magallánicas, y al alcalde de Punta Arenas, don Claudio Radonic, que nos ha acompañado hace poco. And now I turn to English because we have our colleagues around the world and in New York in the Club of Explorers. There is a session here, and I want to salute Rita Marques, the Secretary of State for Tourism, Luís Araújo, the President of the Board of Tourism of Portugal, Richard Wise, President of the Explorers Club, Bertrand Piccard, founder of Windows of Hope, Goodwill Ambassador of the United Nations, Cristian Donoso, explorer and photographer, Beverly Goodman, archaeologist, geologist, and anthropologist, and James Garvin, NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center chief scientist. And, of course, everyone attending in this room and online. Thanks also to Ciência Viva and her chair, Ana Noronha, for being gracious, hosting in the upcoming this celebration of 500 years of discovery, crossing of the Magellan Strait, and to Rosalia Vargas, chair of the Pavilion of Knowledge. The journey started by Fernando Magalhães on September 20, 1519, crossed the realms of hearsay and belief conjectures, and showed that it was possible to circumnavigate the world through the ocean. This achievement was described by one of his most notorious biographers, Lawrence Bergreen, as the greatest maritime voyage ever made and most significant. In his time, navigating the ocean meant navigating the unknown and dangerous waters. This was only within the reach of the best maritime science and navigation available at the time. In fact, Magellan's conception of the world he was planning to explore was, if not inaccurate, at least uncertain. The immense extension of the Pacific was not initially foreseen, nor were its currents and reefs. And this journey was completed because Portugal, where Magellan was born and educated, had one of the most dynamic and advanced marine science and navigation technology. Fernando Magalhães removed the idea of a square, flat world, giving us a round world and opened new horizons to new worlds, new peoples, and new cultures, motivated by the wealth of the islands of spices and the possibility of new trade. His journey is without a doubt the first trip towards globalization in what it represents of good and bad. The sea ocean in which Fernando Magalhães ventured was populated by monsters and legends that circulated through the mentalities of Europe. His journey served to show, in the words of the chronicler of the journey, the Italian Antonio Piaffetta, that there were no monsters with burning faces threatening the ships. Instead, flying fish jumped out the water, and not just a few, but so many altogether looked like an island in the sea, as he said. It was a strange and rich world, different from what the historians speculated in the Middle Age. Geographical knowledge of Obvious had many gaps, but Magalhães, a man of scientific data and a well-trained navigator, wanted to go beyond the hearsay, to see with its own eyes and test with its knowledge. He ventured and made the first circumnavigation voyage of the planet, and did it not through land, but through the sea and ocean, and show that we have one ocean. The ocean we have today is different, more acidic, warmer and expanded. The currents are changing direction, and in some cases, oxygen is rarer at various stretches, and biodiversity is decreasing. The flying fishing islands described by Piaffetta have become large patches of rubbish and plastic. And nowadays, we need to enlarge the exploration and to develop further the knowledge of the new ocean in the times of Anthropocene. And we are here today also to mark the kickoff of the next edition of GLEX and the Club of Explorers, which will take place once again in Portugal next July 2021. It starts in the first edition with the motto, 500 years of the first circumnavigation of the Earth, and 50th anniversary of the moon landing, a synergy full of success, which result in a statement of commitment to preserve nature and this wildlife through scientific research. For the next edition, we have the motto of New Frontiers and Beyond, once again on Magellan's path that open us new worlds. GLEX edition to 2021 will target the theme of ocean and tsunamis. Again, exploration and danger. And I look forward to watching these debate sessions live, and as I am sure they will be most stimulating. Thank you very much.
Welcome back. Now, some of the world's most famous explorers have gathered in Portugal to celebrate 500 years since the first circumnavigation of the Earth and the upcoming 50th anniversary of the first moon landing.
To moderate the talks surrounding the Magellan 500 years, New Frontiers and Beyond, we now welcome to the stage Luís Araújo, President of the Portuguese Tourism Board.
Muito boa tarde. Good morning, good afternoon, buenos dias in Chile. Welcome from Portugal, a country who is proud of its past, but more important than ever, very much confident of its future. A country who is proud also of its purpose, welcoming everyone and respecting the differences. We're here to give the warm-up for the GLEX 2021, a very happy occasion next year, and we have an amount of people to speak today, not only about GLEX 2021, but about the future and the challenges we're facing in this critical time. We're happy in Portugal to be connecting the United States, Chile, and Portugal, and throwing a bridge between these three countries, but also through all the countries that participate in GLEX. And without any more time, I would like to give a special welcome to Richard Weiss, who is the president of the Explorers Club, an intrepid traveler, and I have to say, I hope a big fan, and I know a big fan of Portugal too, and Anne Passer, the chair founder of GLEX and chair for public lectures for the Explorers Club. They're joining us live from New York. So welcome, Rich and Anne. The scenery is yours.
Well, thank you very much. And I'm just waiting for my cohort and Passer to come online. But you're right. I am a huge fan of Portugal, as you know, and you helped me plan my trip. I was there last, there I am on screen, last 2 Julys ago, before we started GLEX. I came there with my family, and we got to experience the hospitality, the beauty of Portugal. I'd like to give a quick shout out. I see Anne has come on, to Hugo Vau, one of the greatest big wave surfers in the world. Yet he surfed on waves that were probably this high with my family, which shows just what a tremendous guy he is, and just such a good ambassador for Portugal. Hi, Anne. I see they got you sorted out there on video, and the minister was just, you have to unmute yourself. I'll keep talking while you're unmuting her. But, Anne and I discuss GLEX all the time. There were so many aspects of it that were just so wonderful. Anne, do we have your sound on there?
We do. We have my sound on now. Thank you.
Good to see you, Anne. I'm in Connecticut. Anne is in, are you in New York City, Anne?
I'm in New York City. Mm-hmm.
I was just bragging how much we talk about and how often the explorers we met with reflect on their experience, not only with GLEX, but with Portugal. If you had to list your favorite things, I bet you I could guess some of them.
I guess my favorite things would be the camaraderie that went on at GLEX with all the different scientists, with all different subject matter, and with all the people from Portugal who were so incredibly welcoming to all of us. I guess that would be my favorite thing for sure. What about you, Richard?
For sure the people, but the one aspect of Portugal I don't think internationally they get enough credit for is their inclusivity of other people and ideas. And so, this GLEX event, we brought scientists from around the world together. And when you bring scientists and quite often in different fields and they talk, so many new ideas come about. We signed a declaration while we were there. And often when people try to sign protocols, there's such difficulty on people agreeing to the basic facts. And one of the proud moments we had there was the signing of the Explorers Club Lisbon Declaration. And I know you have a copy of it.
I do.
I have my copy of it here as well.
Would you read it to everybody?
Yeah, I'd like to read this. And I've borrowed from this so often in so many of the things we do, because I think it speaks not only of the message of GLEX and hope, but it's something tremendous. So it says, we pledge our commitment to exploration in the pursuit of scientific understanding for the betterment of humanity and all life on Earth and beyond. We treasure our planet, its life, and respect the cultures that inhabit it, and dedicate our efforts to mitigating climate change, preventing the extinction of species and cultures, preserving the health of our lands and oceans, dated July 5th, 2019. And certainly when we signed this, we had no idea of the difficulties that the world would be facing. And I know you're going to be introducing Bertrand Piccard earlier, but he often says that one of the great attributes of explorers is their ability to adapt to changing environments, and that the goal of any emergency is to come out of it on the other end better. And so there were just so many things that fermented in that environment.
I have to say one of the hardest parts for me is not being together with everyone today, because that would have made it even more special. I'm glad that we can do this on Zoom and do it live streamed, but I really miss not being with Luis and Manuel and all of our friends from all over the world. Because
don't you miss the hugs? I mean,
I
Portugal
do.
is a real hug place.
And it's a part of the past at this point, until hopefully a vaccine comes out soon and we can go back to being our normal selves and being welcomed by the warmest people I've ever been with in Portugal. So yeah.
I know that you're one of the founders of this, and these events do not happen by themselves. Not one person makes it happen. And I know that you have some people that you'd especially like to thank and acknowledge during this time period.
Absolutely. And I want to start off with the city of Punta Arenas, because this is their day today. This is the 500th anniversary for them, and they've been the welcoming party today. So thank you so much to the people and to all the people in the government in Punta Arenas. I'd also like to mention the government of Portugal, who've been incredibly accommodating to all of us in every single way. The Magellan city networks that this is going out to all around the world. The Minister of the Sea of Portugal, Ricardo Santos, Rita Marques, the State of Secretary of Tourism, Jose Marques, 500 years in the celebration of the circumnavigation. One of the first people that I spoke to, along with our partner in Portugal, Manuel Vaz, and Expanding Worlds. Without those two people, this would never have come about. So I really have to say a heartfelt thank you to them. And of course, to Luis Araujo, who just spoke very nicely. And was so important about what he said is that Portugal is leading the way for sustainability, for exploration. And I couldn't be more proud to be a part of it. What do you think, Richard?
You know, I was getting a little teary-eyed, and not necessarily from pollen and falling leaves behind me, but there's so many good moments. And, you know, I was thinking about the time I spent there with my family, and, you know, Luis was, you know, texting me with suggestions, and so was Manuel, and so was Hugo. And I just felt that, you know, it wasn't just a conference. I felt that we left with, you know, part of the heart of Portugal. I've been to Chile before, and I know it's a similar country that, you know, really prides itself on hospitality. So in the GLEX, just for people who weren't there, we had 40 world-class speakers coming together, different disciplines. It was magical at all moments because you just heard one smart, innovative, solution-oriented person after another. So today, Anne, I know you're going to be introducing what, 4 speakers today?
I'm gonna be introducing, to start off with, Bertrand, but the other 3, I'm gonna try to also be a part of their introduction. I also wanted to make a shout out also to the Minister of Science, Manuel Heitor. So I don't want to leave anybody out here because all of these people are so incredibly important.
The hospitality of Portugal's rubbing off on us New Yorkers, right?
Absolutely, and we can use more and more. Actually, we can use the hospitality around the world right now.
So who are the other speakers, Anne?
Well, as the minister had said earlier, it'll be starting with Bertrand. From there, we're going to go to one of our members of the Explorers Club in Chile, and his name is Christian Donoso. From there, we'll go to Beverly Goodman, and from there, we'll go to James Garvin from NASA. So we have a really wonderful lineup for everybody. And if it's okay with you, Richard, is it okay if I start off with the introduction for Bertrand?
Yes, I'm going to sign off from you, and I'll see everybody a little later. But please give Bertrand a big hearty welcome and a hello from me, as he is probably everyone's one of everyone's favorite explorers.
Absolutely, will do.
Thanks,
So
Anne.
I'm going to start off today by saying if I was asked to name one of the most amazing explorers of the 21st century, I would have to include Bertrand Piccard. Bertrand comes from a legacy of exploration royalty, who conquered the heights and depths of our planet. He's a third-generation member of the Explorers Club, a pioneer, innovator, explorer extraordinaire, a visionary, and very importantly, a great communicator. He's an internationally renowned psychiatrist as well. And with his dual identities, he's become an advocate for all of us and our planet, leading the way for sustainability and progress with the Solar Impulse Foundation to find innovative ideas for clean technologies, renewable energy that can respect nature and guarantee a better future for humankind. Here to start off the Explorers Club program for GLEX is the man that made the first ever nonstop round the world balloon flight and has changed aviation forever with the Solar Impulse round the world flight. Welcome, my good friend, Dr. Bertrand Piccard.
Hello to everyone. I'm Bertrand Piccard, the president of the Solar Impulse Foundation and a member of the Explorers Club since 3 generations. And I'm very glad to open this official session, this new global exploration summit organized by the Explorers Club, together with the government of Portugal, Spain, and Chile. 500 years that Magellan has discovered Chile and opened the Strait of Magellan. What an incredible moment to remember. As explorer myself, I can tell you that when I wanted to fly around the world in a balloon and later on a solar-powered airplane, a lot of people were laughing and told me it was impossible. Can you go back 500 years in time and imagine what the people told to Magellan? Going around the world when most of the people thought the Earth was flat, when ships were just running along the coast in order to try to make some trade with indigenous people. Well, it shows the spirit. The spirit of Magellan is the type of spirit that we would like to promote with the Explorers Club. And this is why it's fascinating to see that there are 28 universities from what we can call the Magellan cities that are also participating in this global exploration summit. So it's very important to understand what is exploration, what it was and what it will be. Exploration is a spirit of curiosity. Try to discover something new. And I think the explorers are people who are never satisfied with what they see and what they have. They want different, they want more, they want better. And this is why they always try to go everywhere to see how we can answer to questions, because explorers have questions. If the Earth is flat, what is at the border? If the Earth is a sphere, can we go around it? And once we went around it, can we discover some very incredible places? The North Pole, the South Pole, the Everest Mountain, the Mariana Trench, and after that, of course, the Moon. So it starts with the Magellan spirit, and it ends up on the Moon, and maybe it will end up on Mars. And explorers have a privileged life, although it's very difficult sometimes. There are dangers, there are failures, but it is a privilege to to try to understand more and to call the certitudes into questions. Because there are so many people who don't ask questions. So many people just live in the certitudes, in the habits, in the paradigms, in the beliefs. And they believe that this is the world, that this is the universe. It's wrong. It's only a prison. It is only something that keeps us prisoner in the past, instead of allowing us to go into the future, into new dimensions, into new ways of understanding the world, the cosmos, the universe, and at the end, the human being. Because human being is on the center of it. And this is why, in the period of Magellan, the goal was to discover new territories. Today, the goal is to discover and to explore new ways of thinking, new ways of doing, in order to preserve the world that our ancestors have explored and discovered. Because we are at a really dangerous moment in history. Today, the explorers know that life is a miracle on Earth, that it is magical to have this nature on this planet when all the planets and the stars around us have maybe no life. At least we have not discovered life yet. So we need to preserve it. But we are facing so many dangers with wars, with pollution, with climate change, with inequalities, so much suffering, that for explorers, it starts to become a must, an obligation, like a duty to do something. What can explorers do? Well, explorers start to have a lot of credibility because they have done incredible things. Explorers participate in exploration summits like this one. They speak to representatives of governments, to heads of states, to the media, to the population. And we need today to ring the alarm on everything we need to do in order to protect this environment. So this is why, after the inspiration I got from Magellan and flying around the world in a balloon and flying around the world in a solar-powered airplane, I have decided to set my foundation, the Solar Impulse Foundation, on the challenge of identifying 1,000 solutions that can protect the environment in a financially profitable way. So it's a way to reconcile ecology and economy. It is a way to protect the environment, but not in a wishful thinking, but to motivate the industry, the economy, the financial world, the governments to do it because they also find an interest to do it. So you see, always something different. Never take any paradigm, any dogma. Always try to go beyond what we have already thought and already done. It makes life so much more interesting and so much more useful. So today, when we look at the past, when we see the courage of the people who have gone around the world 500 years ago, who have discovered new continents, who made the impossible possible, we have to remember that to pay tribute to them, we have to continue to promote this same spirit. But to do it, of course, we need to take risks. You know, Magellan took a lot of risk, physical risk, so much that he died during his trip around the world. But he was also a fundraiser. And in his time, the sponsor was a flag, the flag of a country. Today, the explorers need to do fundraising also in order to get the funding to do their experiences. We need technology. The technology of now is, of course, not the one that was 500 years ago. Can you imagine the courage of going with a wooden ship around the world? Today we have the most magnificent materials and technologies. But at the end, it's only a question of spirit. And I come back with this spirit. We have the choice every day, to be a pioneer, to be an explorer, or to be a follower. We have every day the opportunity to make our life exciting and useful for others. or to make a life that is full of habits, full of certitudes and old beliefs. This choice, I would like to make it aware for all the people who think about themselves, about their life, about their family, about their profession. It's like in a balloon, you know, you drop ballast that allows you to change altitude. And when you change altitude, you can find a wind that has a better direction. And at the end, when you have all the possibilities of trajectory, all the different directions available, and all the different altitudes available, you choose which one you want to take. In life, it's the same. All the different ways of thinking will bring us in different directions in life. And we have to be aware that it's our responsibility to choose the way of thinking we want in order to have the best direction in life. Which means that the next explorers should not just be adventurers, not just be scientists. They should also be politicians, presidents of countries, prime ministers, leaders of big corporations, investors. This is a spirit of exploration that we can put everywhere, everywhere. We can all be explorers, you can all be explorers, everybody can be an explorer, as soon as he decides to be one for the good of this planet, for the good of humankind. And this is why the Explorers Club exists, to stimulate as an incentive to the youth, to young people to become explorers, but also adults, grown-up people who can today take a trajectory for the best of humankind. So let's all be explorers. And now it's my pleasure to give the floor to Christian Denozo, who is a fellow explorer from the Explorers Club, and he will continue to talk to you. I wish you a fantastic Exploration Summit and all the best. Good luck to all.
Nos encontramos conmemorando 5 siglos del paso de Hernando de Magallanes por el estrecho que ahora lleva su nombre. Y se trata de una gran oportunidad para reflexionar sobre las consecuencias, sobre las implicancias de este hito histórico. Por mi parte, las reflexiones van a ser desde lo que ha sido mi experiencia en ese territorio, donde he realizado más de 50 expediciones que he realizado siempre procurando alcanzar espacios inexplorados que se encuentran libres de incursiones humanas anteriores, y expediciones que he realizado también siempre procurando tener una experiencia profunda e integral del territorio. Una de las medidas que tomamos con mis compañeros cuando realizamos estas expediciones para tener esta experiencia profunda del medio explorado consiste en llevar la menor cantidad de equipos posibles, en el entendido de que a medida que uno va aumentando la cantidad de equipos y de los recursos disponibles para poder llegar a estos lugares de difícil acceso, la experiencia del medio se va haciendo cada vez más precaria. Al disponer de la menor cantidad de recursos, de equipamientos, nos vemos obligados a tener una conexión profunda con el entorno. Nos vemos obligados a entender lo que está pasando a nuestro alrededor, a estar con los sentidos muy abiertos, porque de ello depende nuestra supervivencia en un ambiente de alto riesgo. Desde mi experiencia de lo que han sido estas más de 50 expediciones en Patagonia Occidental, y desde mi experiencia de una travesía en velero desde Europa hasta el Cabo Hornos, pasando por el estrecho de Magallanes, me sorprende mucho, me impresiona mucho imaginar lo que pudo ser la expedición de Hernando de Magallanes. Primero, la fase comprendida entre Europa y la boca oriental del estrecho de Magallanes, navegando hacia lo desconocido, con el temor que infunde la incertidumbre de no saber qué hay por delante, temor que se manifestó en un motín en Puerto de San Julián, el escorbuto de las tripulaciones. Además, el hecho de que navegaban en embarcaciones en regular estado, que fueron sometidas a un mantenimiento de último minuto en España, justo antes de zarpar. Pero todas estas dificultades que enfrentó Magallanes antes de llegar al estrecho ceden en importancia frente a las que tuvo que enfrentar durante la travesía del estrecho. Por un lado, la boca oriental del estrecho tuvo que enfrentar una de las mayores amplitudes de mareas que existen a nivel mundial, con fuertes corrientes. Por otro lado, en la boca occidental, una costa regularmente acantilada, donde es muy difícil recalar, porque es difícil que las anclas puedan agarrarse en el fondo rocoso. Además, un estrecho montañoso, donde existe una infinidad de fiordos y bahías, un laberinto de canales donde Magallanes tuvo que elegir entre distintas alternativas por donde continuar, y sobre todo el viento. En el estrecho de Magallanes el viento sopla regularmente desde el oeste y Magallanes tuvo que remontar el viento, tuvo que navegar en contra del viento con embarcaciones que tenían posibilidades muy reducidas de ceñir, de navegar contra el viento. Con todo, Magallanes logró cruzar el estrecho y continuar adelante con su expedición, la que lograría la primera circunnavegación de la Tierra. Las dificultades que enfrentó Hernando de Magallanes durante su travesía por el estrecho dicen relación con el clima, uno de los más duros del mundo, con el relieve, con la orografía. Pero Magallanes no fue el primero en enfrentar estas condiciones. Miles de años antes que él realizara su travesía, llegaron los primeros humanos a este territorio. Humanos que tuvieron que enfrentar las mismas condiciones y con medios mucho más precarios, mucho más reducidos. Hablamos de los antepasados de los actuales pueblos originarios que viven en la zona. ¿Y qué elementos hay en común entre los primeros humanos, los primeros descubridores, y Magallanes con su tripulación? Que en ambos casos estamos hablando de exploradores. ¿Qué es explorar? El humano, desde que nace, tiene un impulso natural hacia la exploración. Los niños quieren tocar todo lo que está a la mano, quieren sentir la materialidad de las cosas, quieren saber qué hay ahí afuera de la casa, en el patio, qué hay en ese cajón, en la pieza del padre. El humano tiene un impulso natural hacia la exploración. Y ha sido la evolución la que ha puesto en el espíritu humano esa curiosidad, ese deseo por conocer. Y la exploración se manifiesta en una infinidad de facetas. Ese explorador, por ejemplo, el mecánico que se dedica a arreglar automóviles y quiere entrar en ese motor y quiere descubrir cómo funciona cada una de las piezas que están ahí. También es explorador el músico que está conociendo nuevas melodías y quiere interpretarlas, quiere profundizar en ese conocimiento. En general, la curiosidad se manifiesta en una infinidad de maneras y todas esas tienen que ver con esta impronta que ha puesto la evolución en el espíritu humano, que tiene que ver con conocer, con el magnetismo de lo desconocido. ¿Y cómo? ¿Por qué el humano tiene esta disposición natural hacia el conocimiento, hacia la exploración? ¿De qué manera esa disposición ha sido puesta en el espíritu humano a través de la evolución? La respuesta la podemos encontrar, por ejemplo, en el origen etimológico de la palabra explorar. La palabra explorar viene del latín plorar, que significa llorar. Y así como existe la palabra implorar, que significa entrar en llanto, donde el sufijo in denota la acción de entrar en sentido contrario tenemos la palabra explorar, que significa salir del llanto, salir del dolor, o lo que es lo mismo, ir en busca de la felicidad. En la antigüedad, los humanos fueron detrás del alimento, detrás de la recolección, detrás de la caza. La exploración era un aspecto esencial para asegurar la supervivencia de la especie. Y así como Magallanes iba detrás de las especias y tenía un interés económico principalmente en su expedición, de la misma manera los primeros habitantes del estrecho de Magallanes llegaron a ese territorio en busca de nuevas zonas de caza, en nuevas zonas de recolección. Pero hay diferencias entre estos primeros descubridores y el descubrimiento de Magallanes. La expedición de Magallanes es la primera que sitúa a este paso entre el Océano Atlántico y el Océano Pacífico en el contexto del mapa global. Los europeos, a la época en que realizaron esa expedición, sabían de la existencia de Asia, sabían de la existencia de África, por supuesto que también de Europa y parcialmente de la existencia de América. Y por lo tanto pudieron situar el estrecho de Magallanes como un paso interoceánico que conectaba a dos hemisferios de la Tierra. Por primera vez, el estrecho de Magallanes se sitúa en el contexto global, algo que no había ocurrido anteriormente con la llegada de los primeros descubridores. La expedición de Magallanes, por tanto, y la de sus contemporáneos como Vasco da Gama, Colón, Vespucio, van generando una nueva relación del humano con la naturaleza, donde se rompe este vínculo, esta dependencia directa del humano con su entorno inmediato. ¿Y cómo se rompe? El humano ya no depende de la naturaleza que existe en su entorno inmediato, sino que comienza a depender de la economía global. Entonces, por ejemplo, el humano puede destruir su entorno y puede hacerlo en la medida en que pueda continuar entregando a la economía global bienes que sean de interés para esa economía. Y entonces yo puedo, por ejemplo, habitando un lugar dado en la Tierra, puedo destruir mi entorno para obtener recursos que son de interés de personas que viven a miles de kilómetros de distancia donde yo me encuentro. En la medida en que yo pueda intercambiar esos recursos por dinero, también con ese dinero voy a poder adquirir bienes que se producen a miles de kilómetros de distancia donde yo me encuentro. Con esta dinámica, con esta economía globalizada, el humano deja de depender directamente de su entorno inmediato. Y esta globalidad también tiene como consecuencia de que las conductas individuales de los humanos ya no solo tienen impacto en su entorno inmediato, sino que en lugares que pueden estar a miles de kilómetros de distancia. Un ejemplo concreto. Una persona echa a andar un auto en Nueva York o en Portugal y comienza a quemar combustibles fósiles y, por tanto, a emitir gases con efecto invernadero. Esa acción tiene consecuencias a miles de kilómetros de distancia del lugar donde está ocurriendo ese hecho. Y entre esos lugares podemos mencionar el Estrecho de Magallanes. El Estrecho de Magallanes hoy en día, en su sección occidental, luce muy parecido a como era en la época en que Hernando de Magallanes realizó su travesía. Uno de los pocos aspectos que han cambiado dramáticamente son sus glaciares. Los glaciares, a partir de la revolución industrial, comienzan a retroceder exponencialmente. Y la causa de ese retroceso dice relación con acciones que están ocurriendo a miles de kilómetros de distancia. Buena parte de esos territorios con glaciares se encuentran hasta la fecha inexplorados, es decir, ningún ser humano ha llegado a esos sitios. Y tenemos, por tanto, el caso de territorios que recién estamos conociendo y que sin embargo están profundamente impactados por la actividad humana. Durante los últimos años he realizado distintos registros junto con Alfredo Pullarí del retroceso de los glaciares, realizando una comparación entre fotos que fueron tomadas hace un siglo por el explorador italiano Alberto D'Agostini y fotos actuales, tomadas con idéntico enfoque y encuadre. Esta comparación nos da cuenta no solamente del retroceso de los glaciares, sino también de cómo, una vez que los glaciares retroceden, la vegetación avanza. Esta comparación nos muestra a una naturaleza oportunista, una naturaleza que aprovecha la mínima oportunidad para poder expandirse. Los bosques se expanden sobre los glaciares y el humano no actúa distinto a esta naturaleza. El humano también es una especie natural que aprovecha la mínima oportunidad para expandir sus dominios, para asegurar su supervivencia. Pero hoy en día, bajo esta dinámica que ha sido exitosa para la humanidad a través de millones de años, esta dinámica se está volviendo contra el humano. Y es una gran paradoja que el humano, en su actuar con sus estrategias para asegurar su supervivencia, está avanzando en el sentido justamente contrario, avanzando en el sentido de la autodestrucción. ¿Y cuáles son los desafíos que existen para la exploración en el futuro, en vista de todo lo que he dicho? Los exploradores tenemos que ir detrás de la felicidad. Y esa felicidad en esta encrucijada de la humanidad consiste justamente en la conservación de la naturaleza, en la conservación de nuestro entorno natural, porque va a ser la conservación de nuestro entorno la que va a asegurar un porvenir para la humanidad, la que va a sustraer a la humanidad del sufrimiento, del dolor. Para finalizar, quisiera agradecer a la organización de este evento la oportunidad de poder compartir estas reflexiones. Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias, Christian. I hope you can hear me. Wonderful presentation. Thank you so much. We really appreciate what you're doing, and you're just an outstanding explorer, and the Explorers Club is honored to have you as one of our members. So we're moving on now, and we're very proud to have had Beverly Goodman present at GLEX 2019. We would like to note that there are ongoing collaborations between Israel and Portugal in regards to tsunami warning programs, and would like to acknowledge Maria Ana Baptista from Portugal, who's the chair of the Northeastern Atlantic Warning System. And we look forward to these two women coordinating together for GLEX 2021. Dr. Beverly Goodman is a marine geoarchaeologist from the University of Haifa in Israel, who studies the remains of ancient disasters in order to help plan for the future. Her research sends her underwater to explore and search for important clues that are only preserved in the sea. It's my pleasure to introduce you to Beverly Goodman. Shalom, Beverly.
Hi, my name is Dr. Beverly Goodman. I'm a fellow international from the Explorers Club, and I'm also going to be a presenter and participant in the 2021 GLEX in Lisbon, Portugal. Today, I want to talk a little bit about my research and exploration in the area of marine geoarchaeology. Marine geoarchaeology is a field where we take coastal and underwater archaeology and combine it with the natural sciences in order to understand things about the past and hopefully prepare to do things better or improve the situation for the future. Now, one of the topics that I'm especially interested in is tsunamis. Now, when we think about tsunamis, many times, many people immediately think of the very, very large tsunami that happened in the Indian Ocean in 2004. Now, this event really was a turning point in the awareness of tsunamis because many people didn't even know what the word tsunami meant. They'd never really heard it before. And unfortunately, in this event, nearly 250,000 people lost their lives. But one of the things that's especially tragic about it is that when we look back at this event and see pictures like this one, we understand that there was no need to have such high loss of life. A lot of people who died only because of a lack of preparation. They died because of a lack of awareness, and they died, I hate to say it, but in vain, but hopefully not in vain, because we want to use this information to do things better going forward. Now, of course, after this event, the countries, many of the countries that were affected, as well as other countries that thought they might be at risk, created new plans, new ways to educate people about the issue, and most importantly, to save lives by having good evacuation plans, holding tsunami drills, and investing in research and getting more information about how these events affect those areas, whether they can occur, how often they occur, and how large the events might be when and if they do occur. So I've already mentioned the Indian Ocean, and this is, of course, the event that many people first were introduced to the concept of tsunamis. And it seems like just as we got used to the reality of this incredibly tragic, disastrous event, there was another mega tsunami, another large tsunami that happened in Chile. And the Chilean coast, the entire North American and South American coast, is rather accustomed to having large earthquakes. And it seems, it comes together as sort of realistic that there should be tsunami risk there. And in fact, if we then go over to 2011, as if it wasn't enough already, the events that had happened in the years prior, there was, of course, an event larger than them all happening offshore, coming into the coastline of Japan on March 11th, 2011. Well, this definitely brought the issue of tsunamis into wider focus in public all over the world. But one thing a lot of people don't know is that those aren't the only areas that are at risk. And in fact, one of the areas, and the third most common place as our historical records of tsunamis, is actually the Mediterranean and the Atlantic coasts. So this is the area that I'm going to talk about today. So my work primarily focused in a place called Caesarea, and this was an ancient harbor, a Roman harbor built about 2,000 years ago in the Eastern Mediterranean. Now, when the harbor was built, it was of a kind. It was larger than any other artificial harbor at the time that it was built. But at some point, the harbor ended up submerged and underwater. And this was a major focus of historians, geologists, archaeologists. It's a site where many underwater archaeologists got their first taste, their first experience of working and excavating underwater. The focus of those research questions really was to try to get to the central issue of how did this beautiful, magnificent harbor, this wonder of the ancient world, how did it end up falling apart, and when and why? So throughout those excavations, they began to realize that some of the first signs of the major demise of this harbor were about 100 years after it was built. Something happened, and something happened relatively quickly. And about 20 years ago, for the first time, there was a deposit, a layer that was discovered that had a mixture of debris, some of it coming from the shallow, some of it coming from the deep, a mixture of all kinds of things being transported and carried by some kind of very, very strong force. And when the age came back on the radiocarbon dating and from the ceramics that were seen inside the layer, it actually matched the timing that you had the first evidence that the harbor had started, that the demolition of the harbor had begun. So more work was done, not only through the excavations, but also looking at whether or not this destructive layer was in fact wide, if we could see it not just in the harbor itself, because in that case maybe it would have something to do with the construction of the harbor, maybe it's just sort of debris from other construction activities or maintenance. And so in order to do that, we took collections of cores, sort of like biopsies across the landscape. just looking at those layers like you would look at tree rings to see events that happened in the past. And we call this sediment coring. When we open up those cores, just like tree rings, we can look at the layers of deposition and read it like a book, read it like pieces of history. And in this case, what we saw was these layers, these chaotic layers that match what we saw in those excavations all over the region, but also it wasn't the only one. There, in fact, had been multiple events, and all of the events that we saw, these sediment cores that we identified, matched with the timing of either earthquakes or written records that had described something like a large wave or something that we might be able to link to a tsunami event. And over time, what we found is that, in fact, we could identify at least 4, probably more like 6 events, 6 tsunami events that have happened on the coastline of Israel in the past 3,000 to 4,000 years. Now, this is very interesting from an academic level and a research level and exploration level, but of course, more importantly, this is a place where people live. And in the summertime, you can get tens of thousands of people coming onto the beach. At any hour of the day, you have tourists, you have locals. It's a place that's incredibly active. So if you have a tsunami, you're going to have major, major, major loss of life. Unfortunately, this research was taken to heart, and the Israeli government decided to include this inside the National Emergency Management Program and to introduce drills, emergency plans, evacuation routes, and to have it as part of the way that people relate to possible disasters and natural events in the region. And the hope is that this will greatly reduce the loss of life in the future, should an event occur. Now, not only did they do that, but also other countries in the Mediterranean got together in order to have a network to communicate about different activities, how the different countries were improving their understanding of these natural events, preparing their populations so that they could have as low of loss of life as possible, including countries like Portugal. So in my last visit, I was thinking about, as I was walking around the beautiful city of Lisbon and noticing that, of course, I like put this particular picture up as the sometime before November 1st, 1755, because what happened was an earthquake, and a very, very, very large earthquake that affected not only Lisbon, but the entire area. And it said that up to 80% of the buildings were damaged in the event. And some like to say that, in fact, Lisbon is the first city in the world that built itself to truly be earthquake-proof in their rebuilding of the city afterwards. But one of the things that people aren't so aware of is the fact that this earthquake did have a tsunami associated with it, and that damaged their evidence of this damage all along the coastline. And so because of this, it's so important that the research and exploration to better understand how big this wave was, how many people were affected. Is it possible to improve the awareness and to work together with these different countries and different researchers to help to improve the public's awareness, to bring in stronger sign programs, and to bring that history alive as a way to improve our lives today and to bring that forward. And I'm really excited to be participating in GLEX. The last GLEX introduced an opportunity for me to interact with more scientists and explorers from all over the world. And it also led to the pursuit of scientific research questions that we could work together on, including finding ways to understand more about tsunamis that happened in the past in Portugal. So I hope to see you all, and I hope to continue these friendships and collaborations. And I'm very excited to have the opportunity to share this research, and hope to meet you all next year.
Thank you so much, Beverly. That was just wonderful. And now I'd like to bring on the president of the Turismo de Portugal, Luis Araujo. Luis,
I'm here. How are you, Anne?
it's all yours.
Thank you so much. And great seeing you here too. Well, now it's my privilege to introduce someone I had also the privilege of sharing the stage in Lisbon last year, James Garvin. James is chief scientist of NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center. And I think he's calling us from Columbia, Maryland. Is that right, James?
Absolutely, Luis.
Great. Nice seeing you.
Nice seeing you.
All yours.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Jim Garvin from NASA. I'm an explorer now sitting at a desk, and maybe that's the new wave of exploration. But today, I want to take you back and forward in time from the era of Magellan to the future that is coming for all of us as we explore. So let me share my screen and show you what I'd like to show you. Sorry about this. Take me a minute to find the right window, which I have right here, and I will share. So my story will there we go. Let's see, there we go. My story today will take us, hang on while I start it, will take us across 500 years of exploration, from that which was so inspirational 500 years ago at the time of Magellan to what we can do today in that same spirit. And I think GLEX and all the colleagues I met last year really are a showcase for that work. So today, let me take you through time to remember the first orbit of our planet, sailing the literal waters of planet Earth, but remind you that today we sail the cosmic oceans, listening to cosmic messengers telling us about ourselves and about life beyond. And I think Magellan's legacy and that of his colleagues on his voyage, and even those that came thereafter, are a legacy for all of us today as we seek to explore beyond, whether it be the moon, the cosmos, the history of tsunamis, the deep ocean, they're all part of that adventure. So let me remind you, we've come a long way. 500 years ago, we literally sailed the oceans of our water world, our planet. Magellan, Elcano, and his team did that. Today, I'm proud to announce that we are sailing the oceans to sample the small islands of space, the asteroids. Yesterday or last night, we sampled the asteroid Bennu. For the first time, humanity acquired samples at the scale that we could pick up in our hands from another world of the kind that collide with our planet. The OSIRIS-REx mission has done that, all robotically as an extension of humanity. And as we speak, a large spacecraft the size of a car called the Perseverance rover is on her way to Mars to continue these voyages over land. So we're exploring in new ways that weren't possible. 500 years ago, we explored the unknown. There was no surveillance or recon from Magellan. And so his first voyage through those perilous straits, now part of Chile, in the tip of South America, were a new world being discovered, a first venue on the Pacific. Today, in 2020, we can revisit those views from the eyes of space, and we can recreate what Magellan, or a bird flying with Magellan, might have seen as he voyaged out through the straits to see the Pacific. And ironically, his next voyage took him 3 months to cross the Pacific to see those new worlds that he first saw from Asia. So this is what Magellan would have seen from the crow's nest of his ships coming through the Straits of Magellan. So we can now recreate that exploration using the tools we have in our mind's eye today. And we can also think about the questions that we still ask wherever we go, whether it be Magellan or today as we gaze at the cosmos, the planets, thinking ourselves, what's out there? Where did we come from? Where are we going? And so today, we're proud to say that we're going somewhere. We have visited an asteroid, the kind that collide with Earth. And we've gathered samples. We're analyzing pictures. They're coming in as we speak to see what we have done as humanity. This is spectacular. 50 years ago, the crews that went to the moon would have thought this impossible. And yet today, it's possible. just as Magellan's voyage was. And in about a year from now, we will be launching a spacecraft, the James Webb Space Telescope, about the same size as Magellan ships. But instead of sailing the cosmic ocean directly, as we sail the oceans of Earth, this ship, the telescope, will sail the photons of space to read the records of the universe in ways that extend ourselves far beyond words. We can't even describe what we will discover. And meanwhile, as we look, we will see other planets, other worlds, and sense them, bring them into perspective the way Magellan and other explorers did so long ago. The bounty of the exoplanets awaits. And as we look at them through new eyes, we'll understand what they can tell us about where we've been. And let me turn now to our own solar system and remind you that we have ocean worlds nearby that are very bizarre. Our nearest neighbor world, Venus, sits in the morning sky these days. You can see it from Portugal, from Chile, from everywhere. And Venus is that bright morning star. We think today that the Venus we see, as mapped by Magellan in the 1990s, not in the 1520s, that Venus is not the Venus that once was. A Venus with global oceans that persisted like those on Earth for billions of years. And yet the Venus of today, the only part that we see are the beautiful cloudscapes, here seen through the images from the Akatsuki spacecraft from Japan, showing us this beautiful pattern of upper atmosphere clouds. And yet in those clouds are the chemical secrets, perhaps an astrobiological habitat to be explored. We think getting back to Venus, as Magellan got back to the Pacific, is an important part of an exploration strategy, not just because she's there, but because she has a message for us. Can we follow the records of Venus as Magellan and Renaissance explorers did to learn about ourselves? So today, from our own world, you can see on the left the shadow of the moon over our planet Earth as we look and recreate Magellan's voyage, to the exoplanets like Earth nearby, we are still sailing those cosmic oceans. But let me remind you of how far we've come. 60 some years ago, a beautiful new volcano was born off the coast of an island known as Fayal in the Azores. And in these beautiful islands, explored for 500-600 years at the time of the Renaissance, these kind of volcanic eruptions were common. Magellan saw volcanic islands. This is how the world works. And so in the days of 500 years ago, in the days of 60 years ago, we mapped those volcanoes, as you can see on the left, through the eyes of our ships, our map makers, our airplanes, and we made maps of the birth of a volcano. Today, we can bring with the technology of the 21st century to map these volcanoes at the scale that we would feel if we were walking over them with an insect. And the view on the right is a drone's eye view from hundreds of images assembled to make an ultimate topographic map of a decaying volcano. We can see the Earth as it lives and breathes and decays, and connect the view we understand from space to that which we see ourselves on the right. It actually reminds me of Venus, but in any event, to the places that we know. So here at Carolinos volcano, one of the models for how volcanoes erupt in the oceans in this time of GLEX, we can extend our vision and think about how this kind of landscape might even connect to other worlds. So today, as explorers, we're ready to move beyond as people. We are planning a return to the moon, this time with women, men, and robots, to return to our, if you will, our natural satellite, our island in the sky, the moon. And the picture on the right shows a first woman collecting samples from that moon on the surface of the moon in the next few years. This is a vision like that of Magellan. The other visions we have are to get to Mars, the Mars that once was covered in water, perhaps episodically, as you can see on the right. Perhaps those waterscapes are now icescapes buried under the sands of time on Mars, waiting to call us. Maybe Mars is another variety of an ocean world where the water is underground and beneath our eyes. These are the visions of Mars that we hope to put in place so that someday explorers like Magellan, like all of you, can go to Mars. So this artist view of a woman on Mars flying her drone with her robot will become reality. And we will be there with her, sharing in this adventure the way we do in the deep sea on the tops of the mountains, across the ice capes of the Antarctic. We are still exploring and we're not done. In 500 years since Magellan, we have a lot to learn. We're on our own Earth, our priceless spaceship, Earth 1.0. The new Earth, Earth 2.0, is coming. We will see those worlds in the next 50 years of exploration, from telescopes, from models, from spacecraft that connect us to those exo worlds, other Earths, other Venuses. What a time to be exploring. So let me finish with a couple thoughts. Magellan started us sailing around this beautiful ocean world, Earth. And his voyages, and that of Elcano, reminds us of how much left there is to explore even here on Earth, on this magical planet. So the exploration we do to discover our place, how we can live better, safer, and longer, and everywhere, is an inspiration, an innovation, and an interconnectivity for people. GLEX and Explorers of the World, that's what you all do. And we're doing that now, remembering Magellan as we move forward to asteroids, to Mars, to Venus, to the moon, and to the cosmos at hand. We're exploring, and it will never cease from doing so. So I see space as that forever frontier that extends beyond Magellan, and I thank you all for listening to me as I tell you these stories. Thanks, and back to you, Luis, and everyone. Thanks.
Thank you, Jim. Great, as usual, to see all your ideas and especially your prospects for the future. And it will be wonderful to welcome you back in Lisbon very soon. So now I think we have to go back to Richard. I don't know if you're online. Richard? I think we were supposed to have a conversation. I can do a monologue, but it's not very interesting.
Luis, you are so good at speaking extemporaneously. So I appreciate the story ability that you have. You know, I want to make a comment about this. This was only a small taste of what GLEX is. You know, the fact that we're able to connect worlds through Portugal is fantastic. But, you know, we live in a world where there's a lot of despair. People are upset, whether it be about pandemics, race, elections, all sorts of things. And I felt for this past hour, it was pure escapism. You know, we got to hear from people who were very solution-oriented, positive about, you know, moving forward, reaffirmed that science is something that works. And, you know, I just really want to thank all of you, Luis, your team, Manuel Vaz, for putting this together with Ann Passer, because it all gave us reason to hope and dream.
No, thank you. And I totally agree with you, but I have one question. Because we've heard here a lot from all the presentations that we all have to be explorers, and especially now from Jim that we have to keep sailing. The question is, where do we sail to, and how can we all be explorers? Even if we're not scientists or big explorers, how can we do our share exploring this new world or these new adventures that the world is facing?
Well, you know, I think that everybody is an explorer at some level or another. I mean, the next time...
You have another one? You have one there.
I have one of my 10-year-old explorers who was surfing in Portugal last year. Say hi, Alex. Hi. Go with your brother. I think at all ages, you know, you're never too young or too old to be an explorer. The next time that you walk outside and you look up at the moon, think about it. Think about what you see. You look at a tree grow. You look at the ocean, connect in any way. Now, I know that we have, you know, our GLEX in 21 coming. I think we have a preview video of that. And I think that support exploration, believe in exploration, connect explorers, all those things are really good. You don't have to have a PhD. You don't have to be an eloquent speaker. You know, I'm looking at the majesty of fall or autumn behind me here in Connecticut. Think about how those things occur. Think about where the wood in this panel comes from. There's so many ways in which people can explore the world around them. And science does give you answers. And we're at a time now when we can share information better than ever before. Could you imagine back in Magellan's time, or even Darwin, for them to think that we're going to talk to Chile and Portugal, and we had Bertrand in Switzerland? That's fantastic, and that gives me a lot of optimism for the world.
And very big expectations for next GLEX 2021, right?
Well, it's going to be hard to outdo it, but if there were one place on earth that can outdo itself, that is Portugal. And if you move your head a little, people can see Visit Portugal, a little better in their screen, but I will be there, and I think the world's greatest explorers will be there as well.
Well, thank you. We will be here waiting for you to welcome you all. And I think now you have a video for us, right,
Yep.
Richard?
Yep. So as they say, roll the video.
Exploration is probably more important today than ever. There's still so much more for us to figure out.
See the Earth from a totally different perspective, and it changes you.
No matter what fear you have, no matter how uncomfortable you are, you can make the decision to take that situation, turn it around, and even feel more alive than you ever have before.
We haven't seen or experienced everything that there is.
Nothing is impossible.
I can't believe it.
We need a dream. We need to be creative. And we all need to have an adventure in order to create miracles in the darkest of times. And whether it's about climate change, or eradicating poverty, or giving back to future generations what we've taken for granted, it's about adventure.
There's still so much more for us to figure out.
It changes you.
Perfect. Richard, thank you so much. I'm not sure if you're still there. You're not. So let's move forward. Thank you so much, Richard and Anne, for your kind words. And see you next year for sure in Portugal. And moving forward to the closing of this afternoon, I have the privilege and the honor to call the Secretary of State for Tourism, Rita Marques, also my boss. So, Rita, I'm not sure if you're there already.
I'm here. I'm here, Luis. Can you hear me?
The screen is yours.
Yes. Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. Hello, Luis. Hello, everyone. I was very, surprised with all the excellent speakers. Not surprised, but I was, happy to listen to all the speakers. Good job. Great job. I hope to see you very soon next year in Portugal. Well, you were asking, Luis, what should we head to? Well, we have to sail to the future. So, Magellan inspired us to discover Portugal, or inspires everyone to discover Portugal for sure. But most of all, Magellan inspires us to discover the future. And, we have been asking everyone to visit Portugal, to embrace the spirits of exploration, to come and discover our country. You can start a journey in the Douro region, up in the north, where Magellan was born. Douro, as you may know, is the region that is influenced by the winemaking industry, and it is the first demarcated wine growing region in the world. Or I can invite you to come to taste Portuguese gastronomy, which reveals the distant cultures and going back to the voyages of the Portuguese sailors centuries ago. Or I could invite you to explore our museums, or to dive underwater and to explore seascapes. But you know what? I think we could test the limits, or we can test our limits in a different way. Yes, you can test limits here in Portugal, of course, sea, river, land, air, but most of all, we can try to test our limits and try to discover the future. And that's pretty much what we have been doing here in Portugal. So I could, start sharing some thoughts about climate change, about risk mitigation, about social impact, industry transformation, technology. And that's pretty much what we have been working on. So Magellan has been inviting us to focus on ambitious solutions that embrace a more sustainable future, also in the tourism industry. And that's pretty much the message that I have to you, my message in a bottle. So we have been working hard to revamp travel models, to forge new collaborations between the product and consumer for the good of humanity. And all of us can really take a part, can be active in crafting this future of the tourism sector. A future that relies on creating partnerships, both within and outside the travel industry. Like Magellan, we are now having conversations about subjects we never dreamed we would need to tackle. It is mentally challenging, yes, it is mentally challenging, but it is also very rewarding as we come together to reimagine the future, to reimagine our future, and it's in our hands. And you know what? We can benefit millions of people around the world. So it's huge. So my main message is please do come aboard, work with us, and let's try to craft the future of tomorrow, a better future for all of us. Thank you so much and see you next year.
Dando seguimento à sessão, passamos agora à apresentação dos vencedores do Prémio de Investigação Científica e Desenvolvimento Tecnológico no âmbito das comemorações do 5º centenário da viagem de circunnavegação. Toma a palavra Helena Pereira, Presidente da Fundação para a Ciência e Tecnologia, entidade promotora dos prémios.